Hi guys, welcome back to Bunny Brick Design. So you can see I've got some stuff on my workstation here. So I'm going to show you how to turn this, which is a leaf skeleton, into this, which is a very fun leaf earring. And I don't know if you can see it in there. It's got some pink and green and blue flash. So we're gonna do that. So I'm gonna show you how. We're gonna get started. So what you're gonna need to do this is you're gonna need some leaf skeletons. You can buy these on Amazon. You're gonna need some UV resin, and then an assortment of mica powders. And I've got these chameleon mica powders. So this is olive green, light purple. I've got purple, pink, red, bronze, and then blue, red, orange. And I've got this, it's a nail powder kit that's got like the metallics, and we're going to be using this gold color here. So to get started, you need a little silicone mat, and this is a silicone mat. It's actually two of them put together. I cut it in half. I cut it up. Just to be honest, I cut it up because I like using some smaller pieces. So this is going to be really easy. You're going to need some sort of brush. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with laying my leaf where the spine is facing the back. So the front side of the leaf or the top side of the leaf is facing down. And I'm just going to start out by putting on a little bit of resin. Now, we're not worried about getting a nice thick coat. What I'm doing right now is I'm just going to resin this down to the, right down to the silicone mat. So I just want this as flat against the silicone mat as I can possibly get it. I just experimented on the other one. I had a failed experiment here that kind of looked awful. And it was because I kept peeling it up and trying to flip it over and do one side, then the other, do one side, then the other. And then I realized if I left it down on the mat and I left it flat like this and did it as flat as I possibly could get it, try to get those perfect. And it's going to have some shed you're going to have to cut off. Like I'm going to call it shed. But I'm trying to get this as flat as I possibly can against this silicone mat. And then I'm going to stick this on my UV light, under my UV light, and let it cure for like, I don't know, a minute or two. And if you're using UV resin, two things with this project, and I'm just getting some alcohol here to clean my hands. Two things. One, you should really, really, really wear gloves. I'm not wearing gloves. I'm not doing PPE like I should. Mostly because I don't mess with resin that often. So, but I do have gloves out, and actually, just to be good, I'm going to put at least one glove on here. Just so, because I am going to be touching some resin. And I don't want, I really don't want to get it all over my fingers again. I just cleaned them off. So, gloves. All right, so because we only had a very thin coat, we really don't need to let it solidify too much. So that is still very thin, very fragile. And we're going to do 3 coats of that thin, fragile stuff before we start touching the mica powder. So I'm almost out of this resin. I've got bigger bottles that I just haven't opened yet. So again, we're just going to be coating this leaf with resin and just smooth. And it is going to bubble, like, so there's a spot there that it's bubbling up. that's fine. We're going to sand, we're going to smooth it, we're going to make it look like that other leaf. So I'm just getting my resin all the way out to the edges. And one thing that I didn't do on the other one at this stage was I wasn't doing, and I'm going to set that upside down so it'll come out a little bit. I wasn't doing getting rid of air bubbles at this stage, which I probably should have, because there's tiny, tiny, tiny micro bubbles in the other one. They're not real noticeable because of the veining, but on this one I'm going to do it. So I'm going to take a heat gun. And just kind of pop the bubbles. Now I'm going to go and let this sit, and as you can see, there's still some bubbles in there, and I don't know if those bubbles are because it's in the... I think it's because it's in the mesh. It's within the mesh. So I'm going to hit that with my heat gun again. See if I can pop any more of these. I don't think we can, because those, I think, are in the mesh. All right, I'm going to pop that in. So if you get air bubbles on something, again, you can't really see them in this. You know, they're fairly smooth. If you get tiny, tiny air bubbles in there, if they pop and you have a little divot, you can fill them in. But if they're solid and you can't feel them and they're in the resin, they're going to be there forever. All right, so we're going to give that a coat, or a minute just to cure. We're going to do a third coat, and then we're going to start putting some of these mica powders on. So one of the things you'll need with these mica powders to get them on and burnish them down, I mean, you could use your finger, but I bought, like, there are 120 of these on Amazon for, you know, for, I don't know, $14. And so as you can tell, I'm just setting out one brush per thing. And you can reuse these. So if you've used it for this color, and then let's say I want to use it for a blue, I'm just going to take it in the bathroom and I'm going to wash it and get the mica out and then let them dry. And then they should be good to be reused for a couple of times. Again, they're disposable. They're meant to be disposed of. So just keep that in mind when you're working with them. All right, so now we've got a nice good, yeah, and I can feel those bubbles in there. So I don't know if they're on the first coat or the second coat, but we're going to put our third coat down. And this one's going to be much thicker, because I do want this to be the final thick layer before we start putting color in. And so I'm just trying to get it up to the edge without going over. And I'm trying to get it as smooth as I can and getting everything up to that tip. And I see some air bubbles, and again, I'm going to hit it with my heat gun. Just quickly this time. And I'm just looking at it in the light. Yep, that looks nice and smooth. I'm going to hit that with my UV light. And we're going to start opening these mica powders. Now, I've used these just once, and I like to leave the little protective seal on it. Or maybe I used that one, because that one looks like it's... Did I grab the wrong one? No, I didn't. I think it was this one that I used. Yeah, it was this one that I used. So there's the purple, pink, red, bronze. As you can see, it's got a nice purple shift, and then it looks kind of brownish. This one is the olive green, light purple. So it's got a greenish tint. So when I rub it on the leaf, it's got a greenish hue. And then lastly, we've got the blue, red, orange, which is almost very purple to me. So it's got like a blue tint to it. And I think these colors work well together to be like a fall theme, along with that dark gold. So this to me looks like a leaf that you would find in the fall, you know, just falling off a tree. All right, so we're going to let that sit for, I'm not going to let it cure 100% because I want it a little tacky. I am, however, going to peel it and trim some of this off just so it looks a little bit neater when we're working with it. So it's a little bit neater. There's still a little bit there. And it's solid, but it's not, and it's frosted on this side. So what we're going to do is we're going to start out, and I'm just going to dip my brush, and I'm going to try to keep my brushes in line with, so I'm not reusing the same brush. And we're just going to burnish it into, in different spots. And I think this is actually a little too overbaked, let's just say. So I'm just going to put a thin coat of resin. And when I say thin, I'm talking like just like a glaze, if you will, like you're just brushing it there. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I'm going to stick it on the under the UV light for maybe 10 seconds, just enough to seal it so that it's not runny. But I want it tacky because this will adhere to it if it's tacky. So there we go. That literally was... So as you can see, it's tacky. Maybe a little too tacky. We'll give it another couple seconds. So what I don't want is resin sticking to my glove. I want it to stick, but I don't want resin sticking to the glove. Yeah, so see like that, there's no resin sticking, but the glove will stick to it. So when I brush on the mica powder, as you can see here, it's literally sticking to it and coming off the brush. And so I'm just going to be doing some random splotches, and I'm starting out with that purple, pink, whatever color. And then on the other side, as you can see, it's going to shift when it's coming through. So now I love this green color. I'm going to put a lot of that on. I think it looks, you know, really, really, really good when it shifts like that with the green. So as you can see, and it's not real prominent right now, but you know, on this side you can see it really well, the green purple shift. And I'm not going to put a ton of this blue on because I want it more And I'm doing it, if you notice, I'm following the veining so that it looks like it's a fall leaf. Now, the thing is, though, is you need to cover everything. So if you're not completely covered with stuff and you need to go right up to the edges. You need to make sure you've got that color right all up to the edges, and you can blend it. So don't be afraid to, mix some of that in so that it looks natural. I'm going to take a little more of this, and we're going to put a little more of this over here. And then I want a lot more of that green on this other end here. So as you can see, I'm blending, and I'm just burnishing it in so that that leaf has basically a lot of color. Now, you really can't see it from this side. As you can see from this side, you can see all the shifting. I see green, I see purpley blue. And so like on this one, you've got a lot of the gold coming through, and that will come through in the next step. All right, so I think that's good. We're going to put another coating of resin on. Oops. I see a couple tips that need. So this guy, this end here, this side here. There we go. Perfect. Looks really good. All right, so now I'm going to coat with resin, and I am going to cover these. So I want that shift to be fairly light. I want it to be almost imperceptible. I want it to look like a gold earring. I want it to look like a fall leaf, but with a little bit of oomph. And if I get these done tonight, like I've got the farmer's market tomorrow morning, I may take these and put them out for sale tomorrow and see what, how they do. Which would be kind of hilarious if I made the earrings tonight and I sell them at the farmer's market tomorrow. Because technically these are authentic leaf earrings. Now at this phase, you really want to try to keep your resin on your leaf. You don't want it running over. We will be doing 3 more coats of resin and sanding, but I'm trying to keep it as neat as possible. There. All right. Now, blast with the heat gun. Just because I see bubbles. And if that doesn't work, pick up the bubbles with your paintbrush. And I am going to stick that in for a minute. Now I'm going to cure this. I'm probably going to cure this for 2 minutes. The reason being is this nail stuff requires a 99% cure before it really burnishes down. I really like this earring. That's so much fun. And they're lightweight. I mean, they're not super heavy. They're big, but they're not super heavy. So, if you want to play with resin and leaves, and again, you don't have to, buy the leaf, what do they call them? Skeletons. You could actually probably make your own by bleaching some leaves. Not exactly sure how they make them or what they make them out of. I mean, I know they're leaves. I I bought them because I don't want to take, I tried doing dried flowers at one point, like more recently, and I just don't have the patience for that. It did not turn out well. Just so you know. All right, I'm impatient, so I'm gonna see if this is done. Yeah, it's not tacky. It's curling a little bit, and that's fine because, again, leaves curl. They're that you want it natural looking. You know, it's still warm. I can press it down a little bit and flatten it out. So now that we've gotten our leaf and we've gotten our coating of resin on, we're going to take this gold and we're just going to burnish it. Now, when you burnish this, and I'm going to show you here, I don't know if you can see that in the light, you want to make sure it's solid. So now there's a little spot right here that's not completely solid and you can see through it. So you just burnish it, burnish it, burnish it until it's solid. And I'm just going to do that over the whole back of the leaf. Making sure I get every spot that I can. If there's a spot that won't burnish, again, we'll get that in the next one. Just kind of make note of the area because it may have not gotten enough resin. And so this is almost like painting with powder. And see, gloves was a good idea for this because now I can actually touch it and not worry about getting stuff on my hands. And we're going to do 2 coats of this because on the other one, the one coat just wasn't thick enough. So, like, I can still see through it, and I don't want to be able to see through it. So, yeah. So there we go. So there, now you can see this better. It's got like that, you know, purple green. You're going to see that flash on that side. All right, so now we're going to coat this with resin again. Get the air bubble out of there that I just dropped on there. And I'm going to do a fairly thick coat. And as you can see, there's a whole bunch of air bubbles in there. So before I even spread that, I'm literally just going to air blow Just be careful not to get your resin too warm, because the warmer the resin, and that actually got all the air bubbles except a few microscopic bubbles out. If you warm up your resin too much, it gets runnier. So if you have really thick resin, and you need to, get it thinner, heat it up with a heat gun. It will thin down. And as you can see, this side is looking quite shiny at this stage. Hi, baby. I finally got a bunny at my foot. All right, I'm going to stick this in, and I'm actually going to cure this if I can get this to stay there. I'm going to cure this and see, it's starting to come away from the edges. So you need to make sure that you get it right up to the edges. That's where, like, the powder wasn't staying. This will run down into the center if your leaf is not flat. So you may have to do a couple coats and fill in. And I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So I'm going to stick this in and cure that. Trying to take my fingers without resin on them. Here, baby. What? Down here. Mom dropped it. Mom dropped it. I'm going to pause you while that is curing. Okay, guys. So I didn't let it cure 100%. I wanted to make sure, just because I keep seeing, like, I swear the resin's, like, not there. But it is there. So let me try. I'm going to wipe that off because I just touched it with, and this leaf is quite warm. So I'm going to try to burnish that one spot again that, yeah, there we go. That burnished. So it's up to the edge. So I'm going to do my second burnishing. I did not let this completely cure. This time I maybe did it for, I don't know, a minute and a half. Just because I want to get this burnished and get this one done for you guys, just to show you. And I'm making sure it's nice and beautiful and smooth. And so as you can see here, when you look at it in the light, I don't even know if I could shine something through it. And so UV light, you can see the UV light through there. It's less through there than it is through there. So that second coating actually really darkens up that and so, like, I'm going back and forth this way, and I notice, like, it's not burnishing in some spots. Go ahead and do circles if it's not burnishing. And so rub it. See, it's starting to come off there a little bit. Little gentle circles. Don't rub too hard because you will rub it right off. All right, so now I am going to put my last coat on, and then we are going to trim, file. We'll do the other side first, and then we'll trim and file. And again, I'm just going to hit it with the heat gun, get those little micro bubbles out. Or as many as I can. And this coating doesn't have to be super thick. Just because we're going to be putting more coats on anyways. Because we need to sand, we need to file, we need to do the other side too. All right, so I'm going to pause you while this cures. Okay, guys, so I'm back. And as you can see, we are completely done. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to quickly smooth just a little bit. And so I'm going to grab an emery board. And this is a 180 240. And I'm just going to sand this before we put a coating on this side. Just because I want it to be, and I want to round that end. You definitely want to round your ends. So I just want a nice smooth finish on my earring edge. Because this is going to be the final coating. And we may have to do a final coat on this side, but it's going to be thin. Now, this side's matte, and while this looks pretty, when we really do this, it's going to look fabulous. And I've got my glass sheet here. I need to message Let's Resin and tell them that my dual light that I just bought is not working and see what they can do about it. So once we start putting on this resin, this coating, you're going to notice how beautiful the colors are going to come through. So I'm just going to do a very thin coat. Velvet. Velvet. She's chewing on the wall right now. Mostly because it's late and she's not getting her out time because I'm in here, and usually by now I'm letting her out to play. And I'm just brushing this right up to the edge. And then if I see any edges that aren't beautiful, I will touch those up by going along the edge. So like, for example, just brush along the edge there. All right. So now we've got that. That looks good. It looks just as good as the other one. And again, they're going to be slightly different because every time you burnish that mica powder, it's going to be different. It just, there's just no way around that. All right, we're going to put those away. And these brushes are going to go here with the other ones for cleaning. Again, sometimes you have failures. It looks awful. I probably could have cleaned that up, but there was a lot of air bubbles and stuff in it that I just didn't really want to deal with. Now, if you end up with a silicone mat that has mica powder and like dried resin on it, the dried resin will just peel off. It'll scrape off. You can, wash it under a sink. To get the mica powder off, the best thing to do, I've found, is just take a little bit of alcohol and wipe it. You'll get all of the mica powder off. Gold leaf will stick forever. So just, you're going to have to really scrape off gold leaf, silver leaf. And then any dried mica or dried resin, like I said, will just peel off. So, like that, it just comes right off of these silicone mats. And I think this was just a silicone baking mat I bought at Walmart. Cut it up for little squares. So you don't need to go and buy something specifically for resin. I've seen a lot of people, they end up spending lots of money on things. And in reality, a $3 silicone mat from Walmart will do just as well. Just don't get ones with patterns on it. You want one with like a shiny side, like this side's shiny, this side's kind of matte. And I use the matte side. All right, so we are cured. And that looks really good. I think I want... Got some air bubbles there, but that's fine. Is that as thick as that? I want to do another layer of resin on, I think, the back side. Back side, front side. I need to do another layer of resin just because this one's not as thick as the other one. Come on. Please tell me there's more resin in there. I can feel it. It's just, it's stuck all at the other end. There we go. So what I need to do is I need to store this upside down so that so I'm doing another thick coat on this side just to get it thick enough that I know it's not going to break real easy. And then what we're going to do is we'll flip it over and do one final thin coat on the other side. So I'm going to stick this in. And I've got a lot of resin on my brush, so we can probably use that for the final coating. I'm kind of annoyed that my two thing light no longer works. The bottom isn't lighting up anymore. It was. And I've only had it for a couple of weeks, so I need to message Let's Resin and see what they have to say. Maybe they'll send me a new one. So, yeah. All right, so we're letting that cure for a couple minutes. And then we're going to drill into it. So I'm going to recommend when you drill into something, and I actually used, which was great, I was drilling on this, and it did poke through the center there. So when you're drilling, make sure you've got something that's not your table that you don't care about getting damaged, because your drill will go through. So I've got this handy little manual drill, and you basically just push it, and I don't want to push it, but you pump it, and you'll see how to do it in a minute. And that pumping action turns the drill very slowly, so you can get good control over it, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to be drilling and then end up breaking your resin or having it crack. And the other thing you can do is once you've gotten this cured, if you think, if you think that it's not cured enough, it's tacky or whatever, you can always stick it back like I just did there. Stick it back in my UV light for, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. So what I'll usually do is after I'm done shooting for the night, I will turn the UV light on, and usually it's double-sided. I will turn it on for 5 minutes and let it do its thing, on both sides for like 5 minutes. So I've really got to do something about this brush. It's got a ton of resin on it, so and again, the reason why I'm doing this is because any overrun from us touching up those sides, I want to make sure this looks nice and smooth. It's nice and finished. There's no holes. There's no gaps. And then now that I'm done with that, I am going to take and clean off my brush, smooth it out. So all I'm doing is pulling off as much of the resin off this brush as I can, because really it's in the dark. It's, and these are just my resin tools. We'll stick that guy away. I am going to cure this, and then I'm going to show you how to drill. And so like I said, for drilling, I'm using my Supplemax. Well, we don't even have to use the Supplemax. It doesn't matter. You can use your beading wire thing. Anything that you can push on that when it goes through the resin, it's not going to damage your table, damage your silicone mat, damage anything you don't want it to damage. Piece of wood, I just don't have any scraps. Usually I'll have a scrap piece of wood, scrap block, and I'll just do that and drill into that. You could do layers of cardboard. You could do, you know, anything that you don't care about, but usually like a box, you know, several layers thick, foam board, you know, piece of plastic you don't care about. Yeah, like I said, wood. I wouldn't recommend glass or anything like that because that might break. And I'm going to start putting some things away here while we're waiting for that to cure. I like to keep all my resin stuff tucked away in a dark corner because it's UV resin. Try to keep all of my stuff organized. I've been trying to keep organized. I just find it's easier to find things when everything's organized and put away, and it's not all over the place. Oops, that's gonna go too. All right, so that had its 2 minutes of time, and as you can see, this is a really pretty, gorgeous leaf. And I don't know, again, if you can see the color shifting in that. It's very subtle, but that's what I wanted. So now, to drill your hole, you're going to want to make sure this end is flat. And you're going to take your drill. And you're going to figure out exactly where you need to be. And the first couple of pumps are critical on this. Because if it's not where you want it, it can slide. Just a little. And we're just going to pump. Oops. And you got to be careful you don't do that and scratch. So just pump. Try to go slow. Check every so often to see if you're starting to get through it. And you'll feel it give way when it goes all the way through. And so now I have a nice little hole there for my jump ring. So I'm going to take these gloves off because I hate working with gloves. And we are going to put our jump rings on. Now, because this has a kind of a deep hole, and actually I put my pliers away and I need them. I'm going to put 2 jump rings on. I'm going to put one on this, and it's a small jump ring. And then I'm going to put a jump ring and then the ear hook on that as well. So we've got jump ring. And then just make sure you've got the right side forward. And there you go. And so now we've got this gorgeous pair of earrings. And granted, they're not exactly the same shape, but they're organic. And so this one feels a little tacky still. One of the things you can do is if you have if you're not sure that it's going to be completely smooth, you can always add top coat, like a top coat to it. I'm not going to, but I'm just showing you could add a top coat. I think this just needs, I don't know, a few more minutes under the UV light, and I'm going to set that for 5 minutes and walk away and leave it be. But yeah, so anyways, just a little fun project that we did, and now you've got yourself a nice pair of fall earrings made with leaf skeletons. That looks really, really cool. So anyways, let me know what you think in the comments, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, guys.